Hey everybody, Andy here. Happy Thursday, helping you build a career you love. Live office hours, great to have you. Got a special one today for you on one-way video interviews. The CEO of HireVue, one of the leading one-way video software suppliers to employers, is here. Kevin Parker, he is gonna join me in a minute or two, but I wanted to say hello to you. If you are here with me live, get in the chat, say hi. You know the drill. Let me know who you are, where you're from, what you do, what you need, and put some question marks in front of your questions. Like always, anything is fair game, but we're definitely going to prioritize questions related to one-way interviews today because we have the man himself here to give us his perspective. So give him a warm welcome. I'm going to pull him up, and my hope during this session is that you are going to have a much better perspective about how employers are using one-way video interviews and how you can look at them, interpret them, and also ultimately score better. So let's give him a warm welcome, and I'm going to pull him up here. Let me just make sure I can give him a warm welcome. Kevin, how are you? I hope everything is good. Welcome.
Terrific.
Aboard.
Delighted to be here, and thanks, Andy. Delighted to be here this morning.
Sorry, hang on. This always happens when I switch over to my ears. Hang on once. So sorry.
No worries.
Oops. Hang on. So sorry. You know, I don't know. There we go. Okay, I think I got you.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Got it. Okay. Sorry about that. Hey, so give Kevin a big welcome, and I got a lot of questions for him. I'm sure you do as well. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here. Delighted
great.
to talk about HireVue, and on-demand interviews is the term of art. So
is the term of art on-demand interviews. Okay. I always tell them, hey, I put stuff together. They can watch it on demand, right? It's go at your own pace. These are sometimes kind of go at your own pace. All right, let's get right into it. Let's get them warmed up. Let's explain what these things are, what their purpose is, and maybe if there's been any evolution since you started. I know you've been at this a while, right? You got millions of data points. So how have these evolved? What do you got for me there?
Sure. HireVue's been around for about 17 years, so this is not a new phenomenon. We were started by a college student here in Salt Lake City, Utah, that couldn't get a job interview. And so he set out, and we've been on the 17-year journey to democratize hiring. The primary reason customers use this today is to reach more people. When you recognize that sometimes interviewing for a job can be constrained by Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and availability of both the recruiter and you as a candidate, and that's very, very limiting. We interview about 1 million people for our customers every 90 days today. We've interviewed more than 22 million people around the world, and about half of those take place outside of normal business hours. It's exciting to wake up on Sunday morning and see 15,000 people interviewed for jobs on Saturday. People interview on Christmas, Thanksgiving. And so it's really changed and improved the process. And companies use it just to reach more people and to take away the limitations of 9 to 5. Probably the biggest change, and certainly the technology's changed. And boy, with the pandemic, we've all gotten used to using video, haven't we? Mm-hmm. But years ago, we were shipping webcams to people. Mm-hmm. And today, with a front-facing camera on almost every device known to man, you can do an interview any hour of the day on your cell phone, on your iPad, on your laptop. And so that's probably been the biggest evolution in technology, is just the advent of the front-facing camera.
Well, that's great. And I know we're all sort of getting used to, the talking through the video, and Zoom interviews and these kind of things have been more and more popular. But people, I think they adjusted quickly to those because they're talking to somebody else. So now you've got. I think one of the big mysteries is, okay, so here I am. I recognize that these are new technologies and a means for employers to obviously get to more people, right? And I think one of the things I've been dying to ask you is. So this is a way to reach more people. It is a way to reach them more at their convenience. But what actually happens when I get to this interview and it's me by myself? I'm going to speak through the camera, right? I'm a little nervous. What is actually happening after? Okay, so it's great that we can reach more people, but now I'm nervous. What's happening after I go through my interview? It's recorded. It's done. How does the employer use it?
So good question. Let me back up a little bit because when this is done really well, you'll log on and you'll see a video of a recruiter, of a hiring manager, of perhaps even the CEO asking the questions. And so they'll set up the questions and you can record your answers. For many companies, you can have multiple attempts. You can try your answers several times before you're satisfied. Once you're done, you have the opportunity to submit your interview, and generally a recruiter watches it, and a recruiter will watch it on their laptop, their interview. They may focus on a few key questions, and they can share that interview internally, so you don't have to take multiple interviews. So generally a recruiter is watching that. They can be interviewing on Saturdays and Sundays, and on Monday morning they've got a queue of candidates they can catch up with and watch, and it accelerates the process for the candidate and for the recruiter as well.
So wait, so that's a really interesting thing you said there. So number one, I had not known that you can actually re-record. It's kind of like a do-over and a do-over and a do-over. So that's a great point that I hope people really grabbed onto. But one of the other things is I always look at, we always laugh about applicant tracking systems. Hey, I'm submitting my resume, I never hear back. And I'm always wondering, is this having this opportunity to have a one-way video interview? Maybe a two-part question here is it possible to actually look on the bright side and say, actually, I've got a one-way interview. Otherwise, I might not have an interview at all, right? So because the recruiter can't, obviously, they can only interview live so many people. They have to let the applicant tracking system filter it out. That's the first part. And then the second part is, okay, so now that I am the interview recruiter looking at these interviews, how much of the ones I'm looking at, is there a scoring system, much like the applicant tracking systems are programmed to score your match to whether or not I want to give you an interview? Are the one-way video interviews scoring you to determine, is the recruiter actually going to watch it and who's going to proceed? So if I'm able to have 100 people interview on a Sunday, I walk in on a Monday, I can't possibly watch all of those. So two parts, maybe a perspective and then a kind of a what's happening.
Sure, we're to test my short-term memory here because I was kind of a nested set of questions.
Wait, two really things, just really fast. So, from a perspective standpoint, are organizations allowed to interview more people simply because they can do this? So you're getting an interview when you might not otherwise have gotten one. And then the second thing is, now if 100 people interview on a Sunday, how can I watch all of those?
That's right.
Okay.
So the answer to the first part is yes, it's specifically designed to allow people to interview more candidates. You think about submitting your resume, they've got to filter it down by some standard, whether it's your grade point average or the school you went to or what companies you're applying from, or even the number of jobs you've had over the course of the last several years. They're going to filter it out on reasons that have generally nothing to do with your skills and your capability of doing the job. With an on-demand interview, the general tendency is we're going to interview more people. We're not going to filter out by these arbitrary reasons. We're going to filter out by the answers to really well thought through questions that have to do with competencies associated with the job. About 5 years ago, to move on to the second part of that, about 5 years ago, we realized we were solving one problem in that more candidates were interviewing, and they were getting consistent questions. And part of the value here is everybody gets asked exactly the same questions the same way. But recruiters weren't going to watch, to your point, 100, 1,000, whatever the number of videos were. They weren't going to consistently watch that. So we had to find a way through artificial intelligence and machine learning to help recruiters consistently evaluate the candidates. So in the cases where recruiters are not watching all the videos just because of volume, we offer a capability to score those interviews around competencies and help guide the recruiters to the people in that queue that are most likely to be a success in that job. It's very competency focused around things like team orientation, learning agility, empathy, and a variety of skills that are important for the job. And we have algorithms based on the answer that the candidate gives that allow recruiters to say, yes, this candidate is perhaps more team oriented than another candidate is, or they have greater customer empathy than another does. And so we can help guide the recruiter and almost a decision support tool to say, let's spend some more time with these candidates.
Wait, so that's so that you said a couple of really home run point. Wait, whether people like them or not, but I mean these are home run pieces of information, because one of the things I heard you saying is and obviously I think a lot of people out there would be skeptical about this, but that you are leveling the playing field. Some people think, well, they're looking at me on video, they're discriminating against me, whether that's racial or whatever it is, right? And what you're saying is that's not true, because they're setting it's almost a machine looking at how well you match, and now you are getting a chance, regardless of how old you are, regardless of your background, regardless of your right. They're focusing on the actual responses that are programmed, probably not much unlike an applicant tracking system is, that we are looking for teamwork, empathy, and we are looking for signals. So that's great. And then the second part of this is the question that I have here is, when I kind of chuckled when I was jotting some of these questions down for you. It's like we try to show people from an application submission standpoint. Keywords are really important, right? Make sure that the machine, the applicant tracking system, can see that you have X years of this or Y years of that. You're using the proper terminology. When you said the machine is now looking, or the one-way video is now looking for particular traits, characteristics, and so forth. Okay, I can just envision, my community, the job candidates trying to stuff the keywords in the responses. Can you expand anything on, I'm a project manager, I'm a project manager, I'm a project manager, if you didn't catch that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, is there any light you can shed on the alignment of how you respond and to what the content is of what you say?
Sure, and yeah, you can't get on an interview say teamwork, right. Teamwork, and suddenly you're characterized as a team member. So let's sort of break down what we know about interviewing. Structured interviewing is really important, and competency-based interviewing is really important. And so, what we encourage candidates to do is read the job description pretty carefully and understand the competencies and skills that they're looking for. What we're doing is preparing with a team of IO psychologists sort of open-ended structured questions about those competencies. The questions are not top secret. And what we're looking at, and I want to use the word cautiously, what we're evaluating is the words that the candidate used. We're not looking at anything in the picture. We don't care about your background, your skin color, whether you're wearing a suit or tie or not. None of that is evaluated. And what we're really looking at is transcribing that audio component into text and looking at the words that you use. I'll give you a super simple example that, a really simple example, and I don't want to oversimplify, but team-oriented people tend to use the word we more than they use the word I. So we're evaluating those components. We're looking at and listening to the words that they're saying in regard to those answers, and mimicking what a trained evaluator would be looking at and evaluating in that answer. So we've trained the artificial intelligence to replicate across a diverse set of candidates and a diverse set of evaluators what team orientation looks like. And so we can grade people sort of on a continuum about a whole lot of competencies that are related to that particular job.
Wait, so that's great stuff. Okay, so I appreciate that clarification. Now, I got one thing about the questions. Actually, I got one thing from the audience that Kara is telling me is a very popular question, which I want to get clarified while your speech bubble's still hanging out there. But the one thing that I want, before we go on to kind of how they can prepare best, you talked about the types of questions and how it's somewhat programmed to look for particular traits in the way in which people ask questions. Now, I've long taught that there are two types of questions as it relates to time. There's questions about your past, and then there's questions about the future. That's in relation to time. But then there's different types of ways that you ask those questions. There's behavioral questions that elicit some of those traits that you're talking about. There are project-specific questions that where an interviewer would ask you about something you did and tell me, how did you do that? And then there's situational questions about your future that say, I'm going to put you in a situation, what would you do? This might be a simple yes or no question. It sounds to me, I can't imagine how would the one-way video interview be able to pick out certain things related to what that specific candidate has done. Is it safe to say that as a candidate prepares for an interview, they should be focusing on the behavioral interview type questions and the situational, because there's no way the one-way interview is going to ask them about how did you do that on your resume.
That's right. That's right.
True. Okay.
That's true.
Okay,
And
so
that,
wait.
that sort of follow-up specific is generally left for an in-person interview.
Okay.
Tell me about this on your resume or your CV. But those open-ended situational judgment or behavioral questions are really what drive at the competencies associated with that job.
Okay, that's really good. So you can basically eliminate 1/3 of the types of questions, people. All right, second thing is, Kara's telling me there's a bunch of remarks in the chat. I had a feeling this one was coming, but you mentioned about the number of takes that you can retake, and you can kind of do some things over. Most of the folks are saying, hey, we've taken these, we only got one shot at it. Are you saying the program, the system would allow you to have retakes? The employer is the one who sets whether you can have retakes?
That's exactly right. And we consider it a best practice to allow retakes, and in some cases unlimited retakes. But some companies are trying, purposefully, I think, to create the stressful environment that an in-person interview would have. And so they're not allowing retakes. I don't think that's a particularly good idea. I'll give you one anecdote that we did learn over time. With retakes, you can't let the recruiter know that you've done retakes. And so we've hidden from the recruiter the fact that, Andy may have done one and Kevin's done 25 retakes on that same question, because that immediately triggers bias in the recruiter's mind. So we've hidden that aspect from the recruiter. Recall that you can also stop the interview and pick it up and go back, get your notes, think about the questions, take a bio break, whatever you need to do, which you obviously can't do in a real interview. It's not uncommon to see people doing interviews with sticky notes on the screen to remind them of prompts and notes in front of them. So different experience, particularly with retakes.
My wife did that with the sticky notes. Okay, so folks, I don't want to get ahead in my questions, but I am going to eventually get to the point where Kevin's going to share with you how you can tell whether an employer knows what they're doing and if it's a good sign, even though no one's there. And I think that's a little preview when he talks about best practices. All right, how about what can folks do to best prepare for these? Just in general, what are some couple 3-4 points that hey, if I had to go take an interview with my company, what would I do?
So a few things, sort of the very pragmatic. Be in a quiet spot. Set aside the time to do the interview. They're generally 25 or 30 minutes long, so they're not much longer than that in most cases. But find a quiet spot. Second is research the job. This is just like an in-person interview. Research the job and sort of anticipate what the questions are going to be about team orientation or adaptability or empathy or a variety of things like that. The one thing that, and I suspect you probably do this too, Andy, is to encourage candidates to think about the structure to their answer. There's a pretty popular technique called the STAR technique in terms of answering interview questions that work very well for sort of behavioral. The questions tend to be, tell me about a time, and sort of go off in that direction. So you need to talk about the situation, the task, your role, the result in a very structured way. And just being prepared and thinking about your answer in a structured way is very helpful.
Okay, wait, so that's great. These folks who have long followed me know that while the STAR technique is popular, I don't love it, primarily because if you don't pick the right situation, it's very difficult. Oftentimes the bias in the recruiter will not enjoy your answer even if it's great. So I teach them a slightly different tactic, but your point is taken. So for all you out there, what I really hope you take away is whether you use my PPO or use the STAR or whatever, that just think about your outlines. You've heard me refer to the outlines, and each different type of interview question has a different outline. So that's a great one. How about, okay, so you talked about some prepping and you talked about some execution. One of the things I wanted to ask you, you talked about a quiet place. I know, I've got computers, I've got screens, I've got laptops, I've got mobiles, I've got iPads, I've got phones. Do employers care? Is it anything regarding that?
No. And about 40% of our interviews today are taking place on a mobile device.
Okay.
I've seen people do great interviews in the front seat of a car, obviously not
Oh, wow.
driving, but that's when it was the best and most convenient time for them when they found a quiet spot. But I can't emphasize enough about the preparation. And remember, it's not a screen test. We're not here to talk about your acting abilities or your screen presence. We're really trying to get to understand. Our customers are trying to get to understand you as an individual.
Okay, wait. Okay, I believe that, but then let me kind of come back with something else. Now I like that, or what you said, but I always feel like the best way to understand somebody is I want to get at some of these traits. I want to get at some of your skills and all that good stuff. I want to get at how you would handle certain situations. I know I saw this on your site and I heard it from a few of the people in the community. There are games and other things that are on this. Can you? That's one thing in kind of under our preparation and execution umbrella here. What to think about those? What are they like? If somebody, one of my people in my community encounters them, what should they expect? Is there anything to consider?
So we think about an interview. The games really play an important role in helping assess a certain number of cognitive capabilities of a candidate: memory, IQ, overcoming obstacles and gameplay and things like that. And there's a lot of scientific literature that helps us understand that. The games could be a number puzzle, a word puzzle. Some are a little bit more Tetris-like for spatial relationships. They're actually kind of fun to play, and you can play them on your phone just like a typical game. But we have the ability to score them and understand, okay, what is your tolerance for risk? How tenacious are you about finishing a particular game and things like that. So there's nothing to prepare for that, and they're not meant to be, meant to stump people. There's good visual instructions, and we find that we get really good reviews from candidates on the gameplay. They're fast, they're fun, they're interesting, and it's certainly something new in an interview.
Okay. So I've got another one here now. All right. So I can imagine that a lot of people who are applying to companies that are hiring a lot of people, that this would be very effective and a common tool. I, as an executive recruiter, longtime executive recruiter, we recruit mostly passive candidates, and there are a lot of organizations that are out there that would recruit passive candidates. There are recruitment teams who are not just fielding what comes in on the applicant tracking system, right? They're trying to widen their candidate pool. They're reaching out to people that they don't know whether they're looking or not. Well over 90%, 96% of the people we've ever recruited were employed. 90% of them were generally happy. They weren't interviewing. So let's talk about this situation, because we've got different types of what we call candidate universes. And so for any of the people in the community who are considering using your tool as a tool to help facilitate the hiring, or any of the people who are very passive candidates that all of a sudden this is their first interaction, do companies kind of gauge and differentiate in their recruitment process, when they want to give an interview like this? Do they always give an interview like this to try to be consistent, regardless of whether the candidate is very active or whether it's very passive? Is there anything you can share on maybe the different approaches companies take?
There's certainly different approaches for different types of candidates. Many of our customers are hiring, thousands of hourly workers a year, and they have a great candidate flow coming in through their application process. For passive candidates, I wouldn't put this at the start of the process. And generally, we encourage customers to have a more personal outreach, sell the experience, sell the company, explain to the candidate why you should be interested in this. If you do include this in the process, it's really to promote fairness and consistency in the hiring experience, so that we're not relying on our conscious and unconscious biases about a candidate, but that we actually know, and every candidate has gotten the best experience possible. Consistency breeds fairness, and it drives credibility in a process, and that's really what customers are looking for. But back to the original question, yes, two very, very different experiences. And we interviewed something like 1.5 million college students last year. That's a different process than hiring seasonal workers at a retailer, which is different still than hiring people that are going to be investment bankers. So very customized. The questions are different, the experience is different, but the technology delivers that consistent process.
Wait, so that's good, and I know people, and I know they're skeptical out there, but I appreciate what you're saying about you're trying to make this as fair as possible, and in many regards, I can actually see that with consistent questions. You don't have anybody that as soon as you start talking is immediately shut you down mentally, right? You know what I mean? Like, because my biases kick in. All right, so let's turn the tables here a little bit. Now, let's get it right on the table, because this is what I tell my community, right? If you're taking a one-way interview, number one, I hope that you are appreciative that you got an interview. I hope that resonates with everybody. On the other hand, the employer still is not taking their time at this moment to engage with you and share, answers to your questions and explain more about the environment, the organization. All right, so we get that. All right, so that's up. We all concede that. But are there signals, if I'm me, I'm going to take this one-way interview, are there signals where I could detect, I'm guessing there's a handful here, where I'm going to know, hey, I might not like this one-way interview, but this company seems to, as best they can, is putting their best foot forward through this one-way interview. What are some of the signals? You earlier talked about best practices. I get to retake it. I get to, things like that. Are there other things that I could detect as a job seeker that, hey, I might not like this one-way interview, but this looks like a good company?
Yeah, there are. There's a very wide spectrum of the way companies deploy this. When it's done best, it feels very personalized. It feels very engaging. We have a large Fortune 100 customer that does interviewing globally, and the CEO records the first question. Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm the CEO here at this big company. Really glad to hear from you. I hope you enjoy the experience. I'll be back at the end to tell you what happens next. The hiring manager asks the question. Another colleague asks the question. We have a large airline that's a customer that hires flight attendants, and all of the questions are asked by pilots and flight attendants. And so you can create a really customized, scalable, but very branded experience, very engaging experience for the candidate. That's when you know they're investing in the process and they take it pretty seriously. Good companies, the best companies, also create practice sites for companies to learn more about it, explaining why they do it this way and how they're able to reach more candidates and create more opportunities for people this way. So when they use it as an extension of their brand, when they invest in the thought and think about it from the candidate's perspective and the candidate's experience, it's done really well.
Wait, I love that. I hope everybody takes that away with them, because what do I always say to you guys, right? Every moment you're trying to get more information, and sometimes you look at nonverbal communication, you look at verbal, body language, and all that stuff. But this is kind of body language through the camera or through the setup. I do appreciate that. Those are some really, really good points. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about, before we kind of get into overall results, just mistakes that people make, like things like not to do. Make sure you're not, I know you talked about quiet environment and all this other stuff, but if from a mechanics perspective, because they're always worried about the execution of the interview, is there anything, that they should not do during these interviews?
I think our candidates run into extraordinarily few technical issues. We've all become so proficient with video these days. And generally, in fact, for every interview, there's a spot at the beginning, almost like Zoom, where we're testing your mic, we're testing your video, we're going to test your speakers as well. So the interview actually can't start without you clearing those technical hurdles. I think that the thing that I think sets people back sometimes is just lack of preparedness, and like any interview, you just don't walk up and do it. It's just the lack of preparedness, but extraordinarily few technical issues that we see with it. But you can always test, you can always stop, and if it's not ready, if your system's not ready, the interview is not going to start. So you're not going to get very far in the process if you're having technical issues.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. We always like to point out, the gotchas or watch out fors. All right, so now, you got all these millions of data points. You just mentioned, 1.5 million college students last year. I can't remember, 20 some odd million interviews or something like that you've gathered data for. Are there any, so I'm a data guy. I always feed my community data and reasons and rationales behind why this works or why this won't or whatever. Can you comment on, okay, we've done all these interviews. We know that the efficacy of this product for our employers, our customers, the employers who interview our customers. We know that. Is there any statistics you can give us that say, hey, all right, you took an interview, they hired X people, X of those people worked out, or are there any statistics across gender, age, anything like that that say, hey, it truly is diverse, it truly is agnostic, it truly doesn't know who you are when you're feeding it the responses? Is it just anything that can that they can understand?
Probably the thing we focus, there's a few things we focus on right at the start. One is just diversity. Are we reaching more candidates, and are we reaching more candidates using technology than if we're limited by the traditional 9-to-5 process? And so we've got a lot of stories around customers hiring their most diverse group of college graduates, their most diverse intern class, as a result of just reaching out to more people and standardizing the process and focusing on those structured questions. So we're not looking at attributes that aren't related to the job. We also know that for many customers, time to fill a role is condensed significantly from, one case 60 days to 6 days, because we can hire people very, very quickly and get the traditional last in, first out process to a best in, first out process. The recruiter isn't sort of randomly going through CVs trying to find people, putting people in and out for arbitrary reasons. And so that is a very important process. We also know that we can attach a lot of data to things like promotability and tenure in positions. And so there's a lot of data. It varies from company to company, but we know we're hiring better people. We know we're hiring faster, and we know we're getting a more diverse result as companies adopt this sort of standardized process.
Wait, I love that. Okay, so that's interesting that you said about the, instead of the first in, first out, or last in, first out, it's kind of, best out, right? And that is hard to do. It's really hard when you're relying on applicant tracking systems to filter through candidates. It's really hard if you are trying to manually, meaning you're doing the dialing and emailing to recruit passive candidates. So I appreciate that. But before we get in, I know we got a lot of good questions here that are related to some things that you remarked about. Is there any, just to kind of wrap up, sort of this, you're in my portion of this, is there anything else that you want to add that you don't feel we covered?
Two things I think about that I think are important is we think about that assessment technology and the ability to assess candidates around those competencies. We also have the ability, and many of our customers take advantage of that, to give feedback to candidates. The two biggest complaints I think people ever have about interviewing process: I didn't get any feedback and I never heard back. So as you think about the process, if we can give immediate feedback driven by the assessment models and perhaps even some light coaching to candidates, it's a bit of a payoff for them investing time into the process. We're also very focused around a concept that we would call design for the disappointed, recognizing that a lot of the people that interface with our product may not get the job, but they still deserve an answer. And so we work with customers to make sure that we can respond back to them and say, this isn't the right job for you, or you're not the right candidate, or we filled the position. And so that design and understanding that there's going to potentially be a lot of disappointed people in the process is a responsibility that we feel and our customers feel. And we're trying to remedy that by faster follow-up. And you owe people an answer. Even if the answer is no, you owe them an answer.
Wait, I will tell you this, as a as a longtime executive recruiter, we're 100%, right? We chase right? We get our answers from our clients, we give explanations to our candidates, and I realize that not everybody has that luxury. And I realize a lot of people they submit their resumes into an applicant track system, they never hear back. They get interviews. I'm appalled when you actually took time to interview with somebody, they interviewed you and never got back to you. So would you say, can we tack that on to a best practice? That is this something that the response and the feedback and the giving you data if you did not get the role, is that a best practice as well for an employer? Meaning it's at their discretion. It's not like an automation that just automatically gives you this insight.
It is a best practice, and we really encourage candidates and their companies to do that. And it reflects so poorly on the brand when you don't, that I think there's a wide sense that among our customers that they owe candidates answers. They don't want this going on, and they don't want it reflecting on their brand that way.
I'm with you. So does that mean that everybody who takes a HireVue interview for HireVue gets a response?
I encourage every one of our customers to get a response back to the candidate quickly. If you've made a decision, if they're not the right person, you owe them that answer.
Awesome. All right. Well, listen, Kara has been feeding me a couple or more than a couple, some really great questions. Can we take a few minutes and, kind of hit you with these? Yeah. So we do have one of my folks in my coaching program, Jeff. He mentioned that he did take this for one of the airlines. He was only allowed the one take. So I get that this is at the discretion of the employer. And then the other question from Mr. 97, that's the beloved nickname I gave him. He says, if you redo an answer, do they see the originals or does it count against you to redo it? And I know you made some remarks there, but can we clarify that?
That they do not see your retakes, and we hide those retakes, and they're not stored too. We're not keeping any of that information. You only have the opportunity to submit the one you choose to submit.
That's fantastic. All right, so Michael Moore, what happens to get into a recorded interview? How does it turn into a conversation about job requirements, the culture discussion, the things that occur in a two-way conversation? So I know there's limitations. Anything additional there that you want to add?
Well, in terms of the first part of the question, in terms of the job requirements, we're not looking for an archetype. Each one of our interviews is for a family or for a particular job. So we're not asking a million people the same question. We're only asking for those. So the questions are very customized to that job and that role. In terms of, sort of more contextual stuff, generally that's for the in-person, the follow-up interview.
Okay.
And what we find too is that follow-up interviews are a lot richer because we've seen each other before. You've potentially seen me, and I can say, hey, really enjoyed your answer to this question, and they're a lot more engaging. We know qualitatively because you've done the video interview first.
Wait, so that's another one I want to add to the list of how do I know if an employer actually, like a best practice. So if I get to an in-person interview, do they make remarks like, hey, I really enjoyed your response on it? Otherwise, maybe it's dead silence about this, and you're not so sure about how whether they actually saw everything.
Generally, you should assume that if you've done an on-demand interview and you get an in-person interview, they've watched that video. They've watched that interview and they understand, hey, Andy, I really enjoyed your answer about teamwork. Can you expand on that a little bit more? Or I saw this on your resume and I saw your answer about teamwork. Tell me a little bit more about that. So you've almost got a pre-introduction to the process, but assume, I think 99 times out of 100, they've watched the video already. And that's part of the reason why you're there.
That's a pretty big percentage, right? So I believe you. I believe you. All right, we got Ed Leung. My experience has been one practice with 3 do-overs. Okay, so we do. So the important questions only give 3 minutes to prepare and 1 chance on each question. So it sounds like there might be a mix and match, but I'm glad to get some validation that people are getting chances to do do-overs. So folks, I was not aware of the do-over thing. I mean, I saw my wife take it. She's like, no, I got 1 shot, and she might have taken a Spark Hire or something, one of these other tools similar, but that's good. Flying Uber Tubers, one of our beloved community members. What about people who are not good on camera? How does that affect the outcome?
So 2 things you can do. One, if you're not good on camera and we're here on camera, every time you disappear, I'm looking at myself on screen. I'm like, all right, I don't like that either. You can hide your video. You can hide your self view. So you're not staring into yourself in the screen because people are uncomfortable with that.
I see.
And the other component is as I said earlier, this isn't a screen test. Think about your answer. If you're not here to have eye contact with the camera. If you're looking at your notes, thinking about your answer, perfectly fine. That's not the focus of the interview. It's not eye contact. It's not facial expressions. It's not smiling. It's about understanding you as an individual, and your answers to the questions are what's driving the interview.
So wait, so if that is actually the case, then couldn't you make an argument that, well, why do I have to do this on video? Can't I just record an audio? So thoughts on that?
You can, but it's harder for the company to present themselves in audio. So you're just getting audio response. There we have a couple of customers that are audio only customers as well. But generally we find that the completion rate, the take rates are very high. We survey all of our candidates and we get very high candidate scores. As I tell people, look, if we have 22 million interviews in inventory. If I said, here, watch 100 of them randomly, what you'd see most often is people smiling. they're talking about themselves on their own time, on their own terms. They're talking about their experiences in a way that's comfortable to them. And so it's not, as I said, I can't emphasize enough. It's not meant to be a test and a screen test. It's a chance for you to tell your story.
I go with what you say, right? I haven't taken one of these. And one thing I will tell all of you out there about what Kevin just said too, if given a chance between, like if I come up here every week and I show up, given a chance between a great video camera and a great microphone, I would choose the microphone every single day. Bad video, well, just let's not go to extreme here. Bad video with great audio is way better than bad audio with great video. And we know that as YouTubers, we take surveys, we look at this. I've trialed and errored things, and believe me, that is the case. And I would say the same thing to you. Make sure that you are in a quiet place. Your audio is good. Test that. There's easy ways to do that. So that's a great point. We've got let me see, one here. Is the camera recording while you're doing the cognitive tests?
No.
Or the games? It's not. Okay, so is it recording like the screen, I'm assuming, or does it just score the games?
It's recording inputs, so, okay. If I say, here's a random string of numbers, they disappear, type them back. It's just recording what you're doing. We're not looking, the camera's not live, the audio's not live. We're just understanding the answer.
Can you confirm? I think I saw on your website too. Isn't there like a sample of what that looks like? Some videos there. Right. So folks, I would, if you get this on-demand interview, I'll try to get used to saying that, Kevin, I ain't promising, but if you get one of these on-demand interviews, and there's a number of other HireVue's a leader in this, but there are a number of other organizations that do this. I would go to their websites and see if you can detect, who the company is. Usually I'm guessing there's some kind of easy way for you to tell which company is offering it. Certainly was for my wife when she had one of these, and see if they have any videos, interviews, or anything that you can sample in interviews, or anything where you can learn and practice. I think that would be a good one. We got a good question here from Kristen, wondering how the system works with someone who has an accent. Kevin, you're speaking to a lot of people who are all over the world right now, and the one thing I know, when somebody has an accent and I'm interviewing them personally, and I say this to my community, and I'll say it till I'm dead, if you have an accent, I will, this is me personally, will work harder to pay attention to what you are saying, because I want to understand your thought. The fact that you have an accent means you speak at least one more language than I do. Total respect there. But now it's a computer that ain't Andy listening to you. What about that? Has there been issues? A lot of
work and a lot of research around that, and I would say our natural language processing tools, our ability to transcribe speech to text, are better in most cases than human beings at doing that. So we do a lot of testing around accents. We do a lot of testing around gender differences and things like that. So we know our transcription capabilities are very, very strong. The other thing I remind people of is, I think I'm human, right? So I hear someone talking with a posh English accent, I immediately think they're smarter than I am.
I do too.
I hear somebody talking with a French accent, I have one set of characteristics. I hear somebody with a Southern accent, and I have all these conscious and unconscious biases that work their way into my judgment as a human being. The NLP is completely free of any of the associated biases. So we're very strong from a transcription perspective without the baggage of my perception of what an English accent means at the end of the day.
Folks, what he's saying, he's speaking the truth there, because we do that. And I was actually interacting with somebody the other day, and I won't name the kind of the demographic of the person, but they said, hey, usually when you're interacting with people from this country, it's hard to read them, they're close to the vet, or whatever. And so bang, immediately you're thinking, what are they not telling me? Like, this is reality in interviews. Interviewers do that to you automatically. You can't turn it off. We're human. So I'll give you some props for that. I know some people might find that hard to believe, but I do believe that. Okay, wait. Elian, would you say this type of interview is usually for junior roles in very large companies? So wait, let's expand that. So we can answer her question, but let's expand that. Who do you usually see using this tool like that? So junior and large organizations, yes or no, or and then any other kind of trends?
What really distinguishes our customers is the volume of candidates. When you think about what we're doing here, if you're just going to interview 5 people, that's not the way. This isn't the tool for you. This isn't what you need. If you're going to interview 50 people, then it starts to become very, very powerful and very level setting. We interview all types of roles: white collar professional, investment bankers, data scientists, coders, a whole variety of roles. But what sets them apart is we're trying to deal with volumes. One of our largest customers will probably interview, 2,500, 3,000 people today across 1,300 retail locations. And so you're trying to get that consistency of experience and process. I don't know that you'd hire necessarily a CEO this way.
Right. Wait, hold on. Wait, that is a great point. So Elian, and more senior people, the likelihood that you're going to be facing this is probably a bit lower. Now, let me give you a great analogy. Let me give you a stat that I don't know that I've ever shared with you guys, but Kevin just triggered this on me. As an executive recruiter, companies, we would go and we would take their search. These are generally people who earn 6 figures or more, not always, but generally. And they would say, how long and so on and so forth. And I would explain to them that to get you one candidate, just for me to filter it out, I have to contact 100. Right. So I want you to look at these relationships. I have to contact 100, and then not all of them are going to get back to me and all that good stuff. And then some are going to get back. We're going to look at 10. We'll talk to X number. We'll interview 3. We'll get you 1. So I got to go to 100 to get 1. Now, I'm not going to talk to all of them, but I would love the luxury of being able to say, oh, give me more data on these 10 and maybe take a closer look. So to get you 3 candidates, I got to go through 300. So I appreciate that scale. And if I was going to interview 50 people, I would love to have that data on every as a first pass. I really would. But I can see if you're hiring X number of flight attendants and you've got tens of thousands of applications across the world, it becomes difficult. So that, Elian, that's a great question. Great question. All right. So John Marks asked this. I think you might have answered this. Is it dress for success when doing one-way video? Is it dress for success when doing a one-way video interview, or is it casual dress okay? Sounds like I think you remarked on that.
So I don't know that you need to wear. In fact, I know you don't need to wear a suit and tie. I once had a customer, as a bit of an aside, asked me if the artificial intelligence can tell if the candidate's wearing a suit and tie or not. And the answer is no. We're never doing that. That's not the right way to judge people. Dress as you would for an interview. I think the world has gone business casual today, and obviously you need to dress for an interview from the waist up since we're doing everything on video. But yeah, no one's looking at whether you're wearing a suit and tie or you've got cufflinks on or things like that. That's not what we're about here.
No, and I'm wearing shorts and flip-flops, people. So let's just call it what it is. So wait, so that's a great one. So I got another one here, Lanny. What about think time? This is interesting. Okay, so do they know how long I took to think about my answer? So and now I don't know if you can say, okay, I'm ready. Start my think time, and then it goes 60 seconds or 3 minutes or whatever. How does that work?
Generally, you're asked, are you ready for the next question? They'll present the question, and there's, different customers have different amounts of time, but you're generally given 2 minutes, perhaps 3 minutes of prep time. So scribble yourself some notes and, get your head into the question, think about your answer, get the Post-it notes you want on the screen for prompts, and then you can record your answer. You're recording your answers generally 2, maybe 3 minutes, but usually 2 minutes. And that's actually a lot of time to be talking. And then you can, in the case of best practices, re-record your answer if you're not happy with it. But yeah, you've got generally 2 or 3 minutes of prep time.
Wait, let's think about that. When you're in a live interview, right? You all are where we talk. I teach you constantly about how to be able to recall immediately by going with your outline, then filling it in, meat on the bones, and so on. If I had 2 minutes or 1 minute or 3 minutes to think about which outline am I going to use, okay, boom, boom, boom. That's a pretty good luxury. So that is a huge advantage, I do think, if you can do that. So that's a great question. William, would the interviewee have an opportunity to review their video response before a live interview? Meaning there may be a big gap of time between the two. So I'm guessing what he's asking is, hey, I take this interview. Can I review my responses before I come in to see you. I don't know what that.
We don't have the capability to, sort of the night before review your answers or review what you said. Unfortunately, we don't have that capability. That's not to say that couldn't happen in the future, but we can't do that today.
So I'm not that I want you to jimmy the system, but there are applications that could record your screen and your audio if you wanted to do that. Not to mention, you can put your take this little contraption, hit the record button if you wanted to, I suppose.
Yep.
Han Yin, do you see HireVue assessment equivalent to video ATS? How neutral is the AI in evaluation, or does it subject to the company's biases and culture? So let's extend this on, because I know we got everything from can they detect that I'm lying and all this other stuff to, how powerful is the AI? So is it the equivalent to a video ATS? And effectively, that was going back to my joke about keyword stuffing in your answers. And then how neutral is the AI in evaluation?
So let me take the last part of that question first, and then we can work backwards from there. We do an enormous amount of work around adverse impact associated with any protected class of people as part of our responsibility. We have very, very high standards about that, and we would never put an assessment in place for a customer, nor would a customer want us to put an assessment in place where we had gender, race, ethnic, age differences and outcomes. And we test that very, very thoroughly, and we review every single model that we have out there annually to make sure we're not doing that. And we also work with a great deal of the EEOC in the US in particular talks about a small group of relatively protected class of people, but there's impacts to all kinds of people that are not defined by the EEOC. And so we're constantly reviewing those and working with different groups to understand their reaction and their scoring in these assessments. So we do a lot of work around that. We've done one of the very first AI audits this past year to test around adverse impact. We're constantly at the forefront of a lot of those things, and we take that responsibility very seriously. One of the things that I'm encouraged about, to go off on a bit of a tangent for a minute, is that the EEOC guidelines are very old. I think these are 1970s era guidelines. There is a much more evolved sense of fairness as a result of that, and we embrace that idea. The EEOC is sort of the bare minimum in terms of adverse impact, but we do a lot of work beyond that to make sure that we're not doing that. We're trying to get away from any implicit bias, conscious, unconscious, or even policy bias that the company may have. So we're not trying to replicate their historic hiring decisions, which would bring their bias into the process, but trying to come at it with a blank sheet of paper around the competencies. We have an IO psychology team that does a job analysis for every assessment and what are the key skills, what are the competencies, and we start with a blank sheet of paper for exactly that reason.
Wait, that's great. I want to hammer home this thing, because I don't. You may have heard me guys use this analogy before, but when Kevin's talking about biases here, this is really prevalent, and I don't even mean in the meanest sense. So if you got to interview salespeople, and I've used this analogy before, but when we look at your background, we say, well, hang on, we're a small company, interviewing candidates. My bias is this person is from large companies. They're probably not going to be able to sell a less well-known brand. That's a bias that is immediately kicked in my head. You now start in a hole. Now, I'm trying to be Andy Sunshine here with these one-way interviews here. Like, this is a way of leveling that if you have an opportunity to do that, because, right, I'm not even thinking about that. I'm looking at your sales tactics now, and the system is looking at your sales tactics, and I think that is a good thing, because it can be disheartening. It really can.
Well, we have conscious biases, we have unconscious biases, and the thing many companies are working on is now even policy biases. This job needs an advanced degree. This job needs, a 4-year college degree or 10 years of experience. There's 100 years of IO psychology research that say those things are not correlated to job success. They're just not.
Who says that, people? Come on. I agree with you. Right.
We got to get that out of the system. It's holding people back, and it's keeping good people out of great jobs.
Wait, so I got Eliane is on a roll here. She's got another one here that said, can you also talk about those, and she's got this in quotes, powered by HireVue live interviews? Does it just enrich the interview with recording and adding AI processing? Or are there other aspects involved? I've heard of these tools. So is this, and actually please educate me and the others, is this a situation where I'm having a live interview with you, but HireVue is there's a HireVue software that's recording it. So how's that work?
So generally, the next step in the process, and if you don't have an in-person interview, we have a product that integrates with their HR system. That think about it like Zoom for HR. And so you're going to do a live interview. It's recorded. You can timestamp answers. You can have a scoring rubric on the side. There's even question prompts in that structured interviewing world. What questions should I be asking this particular person? So it's like a live framework, but it's really focused on HR and all the things that we need for a good interview. No AI in that. None whatsoever. We're not evaluating anything, any component of that. It's just you and the hiring manager or the recruiter sitting across the table from each other. The advantage is it can be reused. It can be, I can send a link to somebody and say, hey, I really like Andy's answer to this question. Check out at this timestamp, and just create a lot of structure for it. But no AI.
Wait, so that's awesome. I actually had, I don't know if your tool does this. Let me piggyback on her question. I have an individual who's in my VIP program, and he and I were going back and forth in the email, and dang if I can't remember the type of interview he had, but it was done via Zoom. I think it was done via Zoom, and I think that the interviewers were getting prompts along the way while they were so it's a two-way video interview. Does HireVue have anything like that? So it's not.
I suspect that may have been a HireVue interview. Zoom doesn't have that capability, but
it was a separate product. It was a separate product.
So it may have been, in fact, our product. It's a two-way live interview.
Okay.
Sort of an appointment in time where you and the candidate both log in like Zoom. But on the recruiter side, they've got sort of information about questions. They might have a link to your resume or to your LinkedIn profile. There may actually be a link to the on-demand interview you did earlier as well, but it's providing sort of the framework for the live experience. You can do panel interviews that way too, and so it's used extensively in professional hiring for us. Okay,
so there's three. Is it true? Okay, there's three things. It's I'm talking one way on demand. I do this on my own when I can, and it's me and this computer, so to speak. There's another one where we could do it live, much like we're doing here right now, and HireVue has a capability for that. And then there's also video interviewing if I'm sitting in the same office with you. Is that right? Those kind of different. Is that what the live interview meant, or did she mean video?
No, the second class of product you're talking about, that two-way, that's the live product.
Okay.
If you're sitting in the same office, it's just we don't have we're not trying to provide video solution if we're sitting in the same room. That doesn't.
Okay, that's good to know. I'm sure it was a different product because they had the name of the software product. It just escapes me at the moment. But I didn't. He asked me, "Have you ever heard of these?" And we looked it up and we were assessing what it was, and it sounds like what you mentioned. Okay.
Got it.
Let me see. We've got a few other things. Kara's saying there's a few comments around the I versus we. I also agree that using we instead of I can be seen as a disadvantage if you are applying for a more senior role. Thoughts on this?
It honestly depends on the question. And if I'm asking you as a leader, tell me about a time in your leadership capacity you did this, and the answers are we, that's probably not as indicative of your leadership capability. But if I ask you a question about teamwork, we might be the better answer. I think my honest advice is don't game it. Just tell the answer the way you think the answer should be. And if you're trying to get keywords in the ATS, it's not going to work. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. You can't put SQL experience and suddenly get hired for technical jobs. It just doesn't work that way.
No, I'm with you. All right, wait. So this has been great. We're coming up on the hour. I've got one more question for you. It's a little bit of a catch-all. It's probably the most important, and you already started to discuss this, but I would love to end on this note. And they're saying, okay, can you just recap for us, like boom, 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 best way to prepare as best you can, kind of what's their checklist, their few-point checklist, just to make sure they can do as well as possible?
Sure. Go to the website, understand the job. They'll give you clues. The job description is going to be littered with clues about what they're going to ask you about. Think about your answers to those things. Get notes in front of you. Post-it notes on the screen. Think about how to structure your answer. Whether one of the great methodologies. Get in a quiet place and set aside the time and dedicate the time to do it. Find, and there's resources. There's a candidate resource page on the HireVue website about what to expect, some examples. Go there and do it. Take as many practice interviews as you can, and then get in and enjoy the experience. You're getting to talk about yourself. They are reaching out to you. They're trying to find you and have a good experience. And the last thing I'd say, and I'm not sure it works in every situation, but get a playlist. Get your playlist together. Listen to it before it. Get in the right frame of mind, and just knock it out of the park. And so it's not a test. It's not a screen test. Talk about yourself. You're getting a chance to showcase your skills and enjoy the experience.
Kevin, that is a fantastic wrap up. I mean, I cannot thank you enough for spending the hour with us. This has been enlightening for me. I hope they appreciate not only your time, but your expertise and your guidance here, because I think everything you're saying, I think it's important. I think no matter what you do, any of you in life, if you are in the right frame of mind when you start, you're going to score well. And if I practice gratitude, I know it sounds trite, but I practice gratitude every morning. I do it throughout the day. I don't ever dread coming here to talk to you, because it's a gift that I get to do. That interview, no matter how or what it is or what format, phone, video, two-way, one-way, is a gift. If you treat it that way, I think you'll perform a lot better. All right, let's wrap up with Kevin, and then I'll take some questions from you guys from the chat. But I know he's probably got to get on and sell more of this, to sell his product to more companies. But Kevin, have a great day. Tell Chelsea and the gang I really appreciate setting this up. I really do.
Andy, thanks very much. And if there's follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Oh, wait, don't offer stuff like that, because we'll be calling you every week. No, I do appreciate it. I will follow up with you. Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, I thought that was great. I hope you guys did as well. I tried to get as many of those questions in as we could in that hour, and I'm happy to field and give you my perspective on anything else. Kara, can you give me a hidey high that I didn't break anything by taking out my earbuds, because things are very sensitive in the LaCivita station today. I think everything's looking pretty good. I really hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm doing whatever I can to get you whatever we need to do the best on whatever we got going at the moment. And I know these things are really, really popular. And so I want to, I hope that all is good. Okay. I always want to try to keep you current. I always want to give you the best perspective. I don't care what I got to do to get you the information, man. If I got to go call everybody up that's out there using tools and products and things, like, we'll just get them on a dang show and we'll bring them to you. Okay. Couple things. I got some really cool announcements that I would love to get you. Then I'm going to take some questions for you, because I still got some time for you today. Okay. Number one, and not everybody will know this, but people in my leadership program and in my job search coaching program, and so leaders and boot campers, I've been messaging you. We have a Team Apollo session tomorrow. That is for my lifetime leaders. It's my high-level coaching group. I don't know, there's about 40 people in that group right now, and we are meeting tomorrow at 1 Central Daylight Time on change management. It is going to be smoking. I'm going to open it up. We've got a guest speaker who's going to teach you about change management and how to become a change leader. I am then going to run you through our Mile Walk Academy case study of what we did in the process we went through when we were faced with a great change a year or so ago. We've got an exercise for all of you that we're going to take you through. It's a working session. Kara is then, here's another announcement within an announcement, going to demonstrate to the Team Apollo members the Mile Walk Academy community platform. It is a private community platform that we are going to be using to communicate with you. Think in terms of, it's a Facebook-like tool, except it ain't Facebook, it ain't LinkedIn, it's nothing public. It's our own private community where we can do all of this together. It's going to be a smash. If you are interested in getting in that, I know I've sent messages to the leaders and to the boot campers, so you recognize what that is. I am giving away free coaching sessions with me. So it's one-to-one coaching sessions with me. So it's a pretty good deal. If you have not been getting those communications, because I've only sent them to a small number of people, relatively speaking, email us at support@milewalk.com and we can let you know what the program is. We got that new community platform. That'll be coming in. We will be moving you in there in waves, so be on the lookout for that. Next Thursday, normal live office hours, it's me teaching and taking your questions. And the following week, between August 8th and August 12th, on August 12th, that's a Thursday, we are putting a special for you on Thursday live office hours, where I'm going to be teaching you about the power of your personal story and how to build and craft it and how to use it. It's awesome. And we're going to start on Sunday, August 8th. And I'm going to be sending you some messages throughout the week to actually perform exercises that will give you a running start to building your story. I'll share my story with you on Sunday, and then on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, there'll be activities for you to do if you want to engage in that. That's totally free. The session on the 12th is totally free. And then we have a session on August 13th with my leadership coaching group that is about how to be an effective coach and mentor. So how to get the most out of your staff or people you coach. And also, if you are somebody who is being coached, how to get the most out of that. Basically, how to develop and how to coach your coach. So it's really going to be a lot of fun. So those are the announcements. And and then we have our boot camper monthly sessions on August 25th and 26th. So we're going to do back-to-back Thursday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I think that week for the premium coaching for members of the Job Search Coaching Program. So I hope to see you at any and all of those. Let's see. We got some questions from Kara, and we could just take them however they came, Kara. I'm open to answering whatever. Let's see. Nirmai Nan, as an out-of-state candidate, how do I compete with the local candidates and increase my chances of getting picked? Nirmai, I have given you the exact formula in how to get an out-of-state job. There's literally a video with 9 points of exactly how to do that. I would check that out. Kara, any more that we have? I have not had a chance to look through the chat. Adam Stark, I see something early. Why shouldn't you aggregate your work history and career highlighted achievement bullets? Can you aggregate your work history, role, and company bios, housekeeping? Adam, the aggregation is the career profile. It's the top thing they see. Highlights should be something specific that they can get a more crystal clear vision of the impact you can have. So you're taking the resume should read like executive summary, key points of note, then here's the history and the other stuff. That's why you do it that way. Susan Kelly, hey to you. Jana Moorhead, Jim R. What's the good word, buddy? Great talking to you the other day. Michael Moore, always nice and hoove. Great to see you, and we'll hopefully see you tomorrow. Lori, my boot camper, and baby girl, my favorite Instagram friend. How are you? One of my very favorites. Let's see. John Marks, thanks for those questions. Natalie, wonderful to have you. Rob, we'll see you tomorrow. Jason Garrity, Christina, it is recorded. Wait, great question. This stays right on the. This is just going to stay on the YouTube channel. You can go back and watch the hour of all that good stuff. For sure. Absolutely. Let me see. Deidre Bird, Melissa, Unrepentant Drew. Awesome. Oh, can we give my Unrepentant Drew some good juju? Interviews 3 and 4 today and tomorrow. Buddy, I hope things are hot in Atlanta. Good luck. Bucks, what's the good word? Bob, how are you? Jason and the Argonauts, great to have you. And Sean, final interview later this afternoon. Brother, bring it home for me. We have been on a tear every single day this week. I've talked to multiple people in my boot camp, in the Job Search Coach, and all I did all week virtually was negotiate offers. So I'm hoping that you're going to be all set. I loved that email you sent me. I'm glad they are paying you the big bucks. Keith, Joy, Karen, Fortuna, Joy, Huntington Row. I hope I spun you some California gold today. Great to have you, MJ, Ying. Cornelia, my mega fan. I love that email. Thank you so much for that. I did read it. I saw it fly in today. All right, what do we got? Anything, Kara, do we got any? Can you help me out? Here we go. Kara's helping me here. Scroll to the bottom for additional. Okay. Here we go. Okay, Jules, Andy, what are your thoughts on phrases proven track record of working in? and then industry, proven track record of success in, that are ubiquitous on LinkedIn. You take the ubiquitous and you make it not so. So when I say proven track record of running large scale customer relationship management solutions for the aerospace industry, boom. I put a bunch of key nomenclature in there that helps the person wrap their mind around what that is. That's a statement. That's a warm-up. Then what needs to follow is something on the order of evidenced by me running, gaining, selling, reducing, implementing, stuff with budgets of 80 million, and so on. That's what makes the ubiquitous not. And so I don't mind those statements in and of themselves, provided that you back them up with detail. But what you're doing is you're giving people a frame of reference. Oh, customer relationship, domain expertise, aerospace, domain expertise. Okay, right? Or you could just say, ran large CRM projects for aerospace-based companies and blah, 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 ranging in size from. That's okay too. I hope that helps. Christina, job posting states from 50,000. Does that mean it starts at that point? It does. I don't love that they say stuff like that, but that's what that means. All right, let me see. I'm going to zip to the bottom. Actually, maybe I need to zip to the bottom. There we go. Oh, there we go. Aylin, how are you? I'm likely to rewatch this one. That was a lot. It was. I really appreciate that. Jin, Rufino, Steve, how are you, buddy? Loving that wine, man. Loving that wine. All right, what else we got here? I know you guys probably paused as we were Tracy Ober. Now I'm going back up to shoot. Tracy, you're welcome. Steve, MJ. They do work with psychologists. I mean, and what he was saying about the EEOC, those guidelines are so archaic, they're laughable. Okay, so I appreciated his sentiment there, and I know these things are uncomfortable, but I think he offered a lot of good information. I appreciated that he shot it straight today. I don't think he dodged anything, and I really appreciate that. All right, what else we got here? Anybody else got any questions? I can't believe I'm begging you guys for questions at my live show. Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Nothing? Come on, man, there's no waiting. All right, come on, what else? Jin, would 500 or more connection on LinkedIn help getting a job? I believe that the bigger your network, the better. I do. I just do. And it doesn't hurt, and it's more people you can get connected with, more people you can reach out to, or people that at a minimum, even if you don't know them so well, that at least you know that they value the connection. Otherwise, they would not have connected. So I appreciate that. I got that one. Bueller, yes. Bob, he dodged real numbers. Well, I think it's also very difficult to know, some of the questions I asked him I thought were a little unfair too, because it's very difficult to know that, let me give you a great example. If somebody said, well, what's your pass-through rate on your applicant tracking system of people you actually hired? Well, there might be people submitting their resumes in the applicant tracking system that I never got to because I had a candidate that I then ended up hiring. So the statistic about what the pass-through rate there would be incorrect. If the recruiters are better pickers at who they screen in and out, your stats are going to be swayed. There's a lot of things that are outside of his control. I appreciated the value in the data points, how many they've captured, the 22 million or the 1.5 million colleges. So I'm guessing that the data that they're collecting is going back and channeling into the efficacy of the tool. But remember this, folks, it is a tool. How any tool is used is up to the operator. So no matter what the technology, even the stuff I give you tools, but if you don't use them properly, they're not effective. So I appreciate your statement, but I think we need to cut them a little bit of slack too. Rufino, that's awesome to hear on your new role. Great to hear it. Jules, targeted a company that is highly respected in my industry, yet I read on Indeed, etc., that they have a horrible first round interviewing screeners, how to get around and or through that first stage. So I don't know what horrible means. Now, let's look at this a couple of ways. When we would recruit, and I knew that the organization that I was recruiting on behalf of did not have a great leadoff hitter, I had the luxury of being able to say to, and the candidate had the luxury of hearing this in advance, hey, you know what, it's a nice person, they're not a really great interviewer, they're kind of dry, this and that. They might not promote as much, don't worry about it, just impress them, we'll get into the next round, you can meet the other people. What I would say to you is I would not be paying any attention, zero, mind you, to stuff that are opinions about interviewers that people on Indeed are putting there, or Glassdoor, or any of these other sites. Why? Number one, you don't know if you're actually going to get those screeners. Number two, you might connect better with them than the other people would. Just because you didn't get along with her doesn't mean I won't get along with her. And how you approach it may matter. Now, some people, you've heard me say it, are just human rain clouds, right? So it's like, what was it, the pig pen when you're walking in like the Peanuts characters, right? Like it's just that's what it is. I think I got that one right. But that doesn't matter. How you approach them, how you build rapport with them, that's entirely up to you. And I would not let a screen. Now, while I love a screener who will pull you in, right, get you excited, just because you don't have a screener who's going to pull you in doesn't mean it's not a great company. Now, yes, I would question their judgment about who I would want to put first, but that's not enough information, especially if it's a company, Jules, that you're interested in, that I would want to continue on with. So I would do it. I would try to get past that, and I would keep rolling. I would not think about that. I would not let that drop. You know, one of my favorite expressions, right? Is it Mark Twain? I've been through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened. So you're reading this stuff, and this is going in your head, and we get worked up about things that never come to fruition. Or maybe it is true, but maybe they connect with you, they love your background, they want to move you forward. I just wouldn't pay a lot of attention to that. How to connect with hiring manager that doesn't respond on LinkedIn if no email's available. I move on. Or I try to speculate on the email address. I use hunter.io to look at the email configuration of the company, and then I use verifyemailaddress.org to validate if the email address I'm speculating based on the configured format that I determined in hunter.io actually works. Then what I do is, if it's a large organization where they may have legacy email formats, they may have other email formats, I put my best guess based on the hunter.io configuration in the email in the to field. Then I go into the blind carbon copy field and I put different variations. LaCivita@milewalk.com and Andrew.LaCivita@milewalk.com goes in the blind copy field. Andy.LaCivita goes in at milewalk, goes in the blind copy field, right? Andrew LaCivita without a dot goes in the blind carbon copy field, and you're increasing your chances of getting it through. Then what's going to happen is you're going to kick it, and then what likely will happen is you'll get a couple of kickbacks that say those aren't valid email addresses. But a lot of companies might use synonym email addresses, of which those are called, and that would increase your chances. Michelle Kennedy, what is your opinion of companies using these programs? So I have very mixed emotions about, I'm assuming you mean about the HireVue program. The purist executive recruiter in me says that you really want to bring them in, meaning you want to engage with the people and you are recruiting them, See, hiring and recruiting are two different things, people, right? Recruiting is going out, getting people, bringing them in, right? Even in the face of their happiness and they didn't know they needed me until I called them. And then hiring is the process upon which you execute these kinds of things. We call it the recruitment process, but it ain't the recruitment process. It's the hiring process, but we use the terms loosely. They're very different. Now, the recruiter in me says I would never use these. However, When you listen to what Kevin was saying about, well, if I've got to hire X thousands of people, or I want to look at X thousands of candidates, or I want to whatever, if I can get data on more people that more closely align to what I'm looking for, I would love that. If that means that it's not the nicest thing, it puts them in an uncomfortable position. But all of you guys now, I mean, one of the things that didn't come out in the talk that I wanted to tack on, but I was running out of time, was, one of the ways you can prepare for these things, you could all load up Zoom free or whatever, put your webcam on and just start talking, right? Practice, then look at yourself if you're so worried about how you look on camera. But my opinion of companies using these is it's not putting your best foot forward. But if it was me and I was the chief people officer of a multi-billion-dollar organization that was trying to hire 1,000 people a minute, and I would package up something that said, look, I realize these are not the greatest, but this is a chance for us to get more information about you beyond your resume. We know you're more than your resume. Don't worry about the camera. Give me your best shake. Really don't worry. I would do whatever I could to make you feel comfortable because we want the insight. And then like what he said, give you feedback, there are reports that they can give you that actually tell you how you scored. Now, I don't know that all companies are giving those to you, but I probably would. So I have mixed emotions. I don't love these. I really don't, from a recruitment standpoint. So, I mean, that's my dead honest. Hey, Steve, we're getting the calendar fired up, and as soon as I get this damn triathlon, start traveling again. Keith, there is a job posted for a sister company. Sent boss hunt, no word. Applied internally, no word. There is a virtual job fair. Is it bad to go for that job, or should I email the recruiter? I would go to the virtual job fair. I would email the recruiter. I would do all of those things. Yes, go. Good luck. Godspeed. Jules, yes, I get that. Don't you worry. If they have archaic interview practices, I know archaic is bad in your sense here, but if they're archaic, then you should know what it is they're going to ask and be ready. I've armed you so well as a boot camper in how to approach those things. I would not worry about this. I really would not. McFact, what do you do when an employer will not give specifics on why you didn't either get hired or not moved forward in an interview process when you have all the qualifications? Number one, I would ask for the feedback. Number two, if they didn't give it, I would simply move on. It is not in their best interest to give you the feedback, because anything they say to you, if you take it out of context or you read it the wrong way, or if you, I'm not saying you're crazy, but if you go crazy and start and sue them and do these other things, they just don't need that. I would just move on. I would send the rejection, how to get the job after being rejected. I have a video on YouTube. I would send them that in the wake of that, if you did develop a connection but you just didn't get the job. So Sherry, good kudos for you. Glad the boss hunt thing's working. Keep rolling. I know you're in a tough situation, right? It was cruise lines or something like that. I'm pretty sure, if memory serves me, that's your thing. So good luck. Jules, you're welcome. Yes, mindset, baby. Jeff, internal executive recruiter interview on Monday. Interviewed for a slightly lower position in 2020. This interview is in the same department, different hiring manager. Thoughts on if the 2020 interview comes up? It likely will not. If it is a new hiring manager, I almost would treat this as a whole new slate. It really is. This person might have totally different perspective. I would not. I would say, I was really interested then. I'm really interested now. If the interview comes up, I don't know if they would say something to you like, well, geez, you didn't really perform. I don't think they would go there. You are not going to get an interview again with a company if you totally bombed a previous interview. If they passed you over because they found somebody that was slightly better, or maybe had a little bit more aligned skills to what they're doing, this is a good thing. This is a good thing that you interviewed with them before and they've asked you back. I think that's more of a positive than a negative. Deb, thanks for sharing yourself with us a week or two ago. in the boot camp. Steve, Andy, one of the best parts of attending these events are all your pearls of wisdom and your positive energy. It's infectious. No pun intended. Hey, man. Right. I haven't been using that word a whole lot in the last year and a half, but I appreciate you, buddy. D City, why is there so much focus on the resume layout if discouraged from submitting through the ATS? You are a new boot camper. Okay. I don't know if you're talking about me with so much focus. I think that you need to write a resume that is friendly for the human eye, will put it in a format that the mind thinks based on my experience of how a recruiter or anybody looks at your resume, what they're looking for. That's part A. Part B is I teach you because I recognize that it's a necessary. Look, if I had total control over your job search, you would never submit a resume through an applicant tracking system. I am not kidding, okay? That's if you turned over control of your search to me and I had to tell you every day what to do. I would never have you do that, okay? But I know that some of you, all of you, at some point might need to do that. So I want to make sure that if you have to do, look, I don't like one-way interviews, right? So we get the guy to come and help you because I know you're going to have to take them. Now, you could just turn those away. Say, I don't want to do it. That's cool. I'm good with that too. But knowing that you might have to take this and knowing that everybody's in a different boat and some people might be in a type of job where there are a lot of applicants and I can't put food on the table and I just need to do whatever the employer says. Okay, well, I want to give you the best shot. Same kind of thing with the applicant tracking system. I want to give you the best shot to get through it. And you're a boot camper. There is a whole session, an entire session dedicated to nothing but how to optimize your resume for the applicant tracking system. There is a 12-page document of everything you need to go through in order to make sure that you have given yourself the best chance to submit it and successfully. And then last week, we had JobScan here for an hour and a half to teach you more about how you might be able to take advantage of that tool. So that's what I got going there, D-City. Check that out. Agent 99, I'm always going to give you my dead honest opinion. I will. Thanks, Michelle. John Marks, what do we got? Okay, Andy, wife and I are moving to her parent city 400 miles away. I know you were relocating because you've asked me a couple of questions about this. Specific practices on searching for companies not known in my city now. I'm in shipping, receiving, and looking for something different. So if you're in shipping, receiving, I don't know if that's general logistics, if you want to lump yourself into a general distribution and logistics, or industrial engineering types of philosophies or whatever that it is. But I would be looking in the city that you're moving toward, and I would be looking just like they were down the block. So I wouldn't change any practices. And if they say, well, John, you're 400 miles away, you say, we're moving. We're moving no matter what. That's not even an issue. And you don't give that shit away that, hey, and I'm going to pay for myself. You don't have to say it that way, but you go through the same tactics, the same job searching tactics. And if they say, hey, I noticed you're not in our city, you say, for family reasons, my wife and I are moving to your city because of family. We want to get closer to whatever. Okay, that's the best reason, because as a recruiter, for somebody who's not in the town where I need you, the fact that you've basically given me the best reason to relax that you will come, because I don't want to recruit you, give you an offer, and then you say, I'm not moving. The other thing is you could also look for remote positions irrespective of where they are located. If it's something that you could do, your role, whatever role you want to move toward, you can do remotely. So I wish you a lot of luck. I think a lot of the same tactics. It's not really all that different, especially now that the world is becoming more remote accepted. Oh, Aylin, you're so great. Aylin, I'm gonna hit you up for a teaching thing. I am. I'm just giving you a forewarning. 1093 O'Neill. When you get frustrated about the job search, what do you recommend to do to get back on track? I'm going to give you something real simple. I also have a video out there about how to stay positive in your job search. The reason we get unhappy, so let's talk philosophically first. The reason we get unhappy in the world is a couple things. Our expectations, as if the world should operate the way we think it should operate, that is the greatest source of strain and demotivation. Okay, so you gotta have none. Okay, I'm talking about as you go into this process. It isn't about what you expect. It isn't about what you think and how they should react. It isn't about wondering why they're not getting back to you even though you're perfect for this job. It's about what can I control, and I'm only going to think about my success for that day based on me hitting goals and objectives that are 100% in my control. So what do I mean? What most people do is they submit their resume in an applicant tracking system. Okay, you can control that because you can put it in there. But the outcome itself is, and that's what you then judge yourself on, which you shouldn't, is totally out of your control, and you're giving yourself the least best advantage to be successful. Okay, you can control the putting in, 100% there, except that what you normally do is you normally judge yourself by the outcome. Okay, if I then refocused my energy and concentration on what it is that I was doing, I need to identify a company, check success. I need to identify a person, check success. I need to send them a thoughtful email, check success. Now, what's the byproduct? They get back to me. If they get back to me, check, another success. Did they offer me an interview? No, that's okay. I can't control that. Did they continue the conversation? What can I do next that's in my control? Can I ask them for a referral? Can I do some networking? But point being that everything that I evaluate myself on is 100% in my control. At the end of this session, when I turn the camera off here in a minute, then I'm gonna say, did I give them everything I got? Was it educational? I'm gonna rewatch this so that I can improve. That's in my control too, right? Can I be a better interviewer? Is there anything I forgot to ask the guy? Is there like that kind of stuff? So what you do is when you are in motion, okay, so when you get in motion and it's in motion in relation to things you can control, your enthusiasm and your motivation will go up. When you're, okay, so that's being in motion, like almost literally physically in motion. The second thing is when you are focused on the right stuff, which are 100% in your control, you're gonna have a ton of victories and not that many failures. I used to tell, okay, we'd have a bunch of recruiters from my executive search firm. I would say to them, every single day, all day long, you're going to be reaching out to job candidates. You're going to be interviewing them. We're going to take some of those candidates that we like and we're going to put them in front of our clients. 20 days of the month, you're going to fail. 20. But 2 days, you're going to make placements. 2 placements. That's a ton of money. Okay. If you're focused on the 20 days, the only thing you should be focused on the 20 days is, did you make your phone calls? Did you have your interviews, right? Did you screen the right people? If you do this, I know we'll make money. You do this, I know we'll make money. We'll do this, I know we'll make money. You won't make it today, but you'll make it this month, right? You send out a message to the company, to that person about whatever, and my job search challenge, if you're not familiar with it, check it out. 3 a day, 3 a day, 3 a day. Well, you're not going to get a job on Tuesday when you sent it out on Monday, but you're going to get interviews for the following week if you send 15 to 20 messages out in a week. So when you talk about, well, how do I get myself back on track? You used great words there. That's the point. You need to be on the track every day running, right? Doing those things, not focusing on outcomes you can't control. Focus on the things, the outputs that you can control. I go through all this in the Stay Positive things. I really check out that video and the job search challenge. And believe me, when something hits, it will give you motivation. It really will. Okay, folks, I gave all the announcements. If you want to get on my team, Apollo, it's not inexpensive, but it's pretty good. And I am giving away free coaching calls. We got the new community platform coming. The Power of Your Personal Story. We're going to build your story. I'm going to help you write it. Literally every day, I'm going to help you write it. I'm going to give you homework because I love giving homework and I love sending you emails. So make sure you're on my email list. And then if you're in the boot camp, my job search coaching program, the 25th and 26th is our next sessions. August 13th for my leaders and coaching and mentoring. And I'll see you guys in your inbox on Tuesday. You'll see me here again on Thursday. I have a subject that I think I'm going to teach you on. I think it's pretty good. So you don't want to miss it. All right, you guys, awesome. And thank you for being great for Kevin. I know he appreciates it. All right, you guys be good. We'll see you.